Right, while I'm waiting for the Corvette bits and the Titanic bits to be sorted, it's next project time. I'm getting a little bored now. It's going back to a rally car, and I've had this kit in my possession for nearly 4 years. I picked it up from Hobbycraft in October 2020, and it was only 20 quid. And sometimes I go, you know what, that's cheap. I might as well pick that up, because a lot of the kits these days, I only buy them because they're bloody cheap. So here's the next project. Right, so turning the camera around, it is the 1993 Toyota Celica from the 1993 World Rally Championship season in the Castrol colours. It's not going to be too indifferent in livery from my Toyota Supra that I did last year. Now you can get this in Didier Auriol or Juha Kankkunen. On the box it's Didier Auriol, but I've got decals for Juha Kankkunen. So I'm going to be building this to Juha Kankkunen because I've already got a 1/18 scale Peugeot 206 in die-cast for Didier Auriol, so I'll do it for Kankkunen. Right, so box art is not too bad. Tells you what you get there. Solid rubber tyres, accurate reproduced chassis, undersurface and suspension, complete exterior and cockpit details, and you got all that as well. Box art's pretty much standard as it is on a Tamiya box. And you've got a picture there off of the Monte Carlo rally, because it is Monte Carlo. I don't know why they do them all in Monte Carlo, I don't get it. 99% of rally cars are built to Monte Carlo with the decals. Right. So inside the box you've got the body shell, which looks pretty much all there. Looks like I ain't got to glue any front bumpers on or rear bumpers on or any side skirts. You know, my first impressions of it. Oh, the lights are raised as well. I thought them would be a separate part, but that's not looking too bad. There isn't that many sprues, to be honest. I think I've got 3 main sprues. So you've got slick tyres. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and a spare. You've got the mesh for the front and rear grills. I'll probably end up using my metal mesh. We'll see. Right, so your first sprue is rims. I think them of those are the bonnet headlamps for a night stage. I don't know what those are. You got your roof scoop, suspension arms, the outer casing for the night lights. I'm not sure what those are. You got the actual rims on the top for the night lights. It gives you 2 sets of rims. You got the sport rims and you've got the rally rims. I don't know which ones I'm going to use yet. I'm going to be doing decals for Network Q Rally GB, because as you know I live in the UK. So I'm going to be doing some custom decals for that, much like I did on the Ford Focus. So you've got bits of your roll cage. Another bit more of suspension, some more suspension. You got your rear wing. This isn't the 95 version, by the way, with a massive rear wing on it. The 95 version, which is the GT-205, I believe. I actually preferred the bigger wing, but like I said, that was on the 95 version, so you got that. Gear stick and handbrake, exhaust, which looks really long. That's quite long actually. I stretch my hands out like that. That is actually quite long. Bit more of the roll cage. I'm not sure what those are for. So that's that sprue. That's moulded in white. Then you get the moulded one in grey. So you get your cockpit tub, which looks fairly well detailed. Steering wheel. Them could be rear view mirrors on the side mirrors. That might be something to do with the exhaust, maybe, I don't know. Actually, that's probably part of the engine. You got your 2 racing seats, dashboard and pedals, a bit of grilling, bit of piping, That's an axle. I don't know if that's front or rear axle. You've got your mud flaps, the main prop shaft with the axle on there, probably your sump guard, brakes and discs, and then the actual chassis tub that goes underneath. That's not looking too bad detailed. And there's your interior, so your cockpit tub will fit inside there. Clear parts. Looks like the windscreen and the front screen and the side screens are more moulded in one. I haven't got to do 4 pieces. And then you get your clear parts, which are probably going to be for those. Look like they're for the front lamps. You got front and rear lamps on the body, and then you got your, I don't know if you can just make it out, you've got the rub on like Michelin decals for the tyres. So that don't look too bad. And like I said, my Hobbycraft receipt, you can see there. I bought this on the 9th of October 2020. And then you get your booklet, instruction booklet. That don't look too bad, fairly straightforward. Always starting with a chassis tub in the interior. And your axles and your sump guard. So it don't look too bad. And then a bit more for the body. And getting the body in always from there in the back, and then bring the front down. A bit more for your night lights and stuff, and the various bits and bobs. And your decal placement guide. Talking about the decals, much like the Supra in the Castrol. So you got Juha Kankkunen there. Oh, I might have to change that, because on the Wales Rally GB it was actually Nicky Grist that co-drived for Juha Kankkunen, so I might have to change that. And you get Didier Auriol and Bernardo Selli. But yeah, the decals don't look too bad either. Obviously I'm not going to be using those. I'm going to be using the RAC Rally ones, and obviously the Vandy Monte Carlo, I'm not going to use those either. But yeah, that's it. Right, so that's me long-winded kit review and little bits of explanation done. It's time to get cracking on. Okay, so I've started work on the Celica now. I'm on step 1, which is basically the first part of the underneath chassis. So the underneath chassis, you've got to spray that in white. Then you've got to do the front axle with all the various colours, and the prop shaft you've got to paint, and that will connect to that eventually. And then once you've done that, you've obviously got to paint that bit there, the inner fender wells, and then you've got to do the exhaust section with the little cap on the end. I don't know why that's an extra piece. To be, in my opinion, that should already be moulded onto there. And then you've got the rear axle. So that's what I've been doing. I've just been painting them on the sprue. So what I've done is I've primed the sprue, the 2 big sprues. I also primed the body, the underneath chassis in the grey primer. Then I put the white primer on top of that, and then I started painting. So the fender wells, it calls for you to paint those in, what was it, 1 part X12, which is gold, and then 1 part XF4, which is like a yellowy green. So basically what I did is I sprayed that in gold, in the 151 gold, let that dry, and I thought yellowy green, so I went on the internet for other people's builds, and it's like a Kevlar colour. So what I've done is on top of the gold, I've just put a couple of coats of the X24, which is clear yellow, and that's come out really, really nice. It's got a nice yellow tinge to it. Let's see if the flash will bring it up any better. Yeah, there you go. So it's got a nice yellowy gold tinge to it on all four corners. So that took 2 coats, and the second coat is nearly dry. Then you've got this bit in the middle, which I'm assuming is part of the engine. So you've got gunmetal for the outer part, the outer casing, and then for the inner part there, it says to paint that 1 part XF10, which is flat brown, and X11, which is chrome silver. So what I've done is I've just got my Humbrol metallic number 54 brass and painted that in there like that, and the rest is gunmetal. The little bit of a radiator there, that's in silver. So that's the chassis done. Now, you've got the front axle and the prop shaft. So there's the front axle. You've got matte black for the bushes. You've got gloss black for the inner part there, and then you've got what should be XF51 khaki drab. But when I went on my paint comparison app on my phone, I found that the closest to that is 36168 dark green, the Dunkel green. So I've painted those bits there in that. You've got the prop shaft itself. You've got just basically silver. And then you've got this axle here, which I think is the rear axle. Yes, it is. So it tells me to paint that in the dark green. And then the matte black for the bushes. And the ends for the wheels. That's that sorted. And then, last but not least, the exhaust. So I glued the little cap on, let that dry. Now it calls for you to paint it in the metallic silver. Was it metallic silver? Metallic grey, which is XF56. And the closest I can get to that is my gunmetal, my war paint. So I painted the main part in the gunmetal, and then the box and the cap in the silver. And that's done both sides. So that's the painting on the sprues done. All I've got to do now is, once the paint's dry on the chassis, is to put those parts down in part 1. Okay, so I've now done all the construction in step 1. So on the previous update, I was painting all that on the sprue. So again, you got your front axle, you got the prop shaft, you've got the exhaust and the rear axle. Right, so putting all that on, pencil. Just underneath there, there's like a little half a plus shape, and you get this part of the front axle, and you push that right down, and it locks into there. And then the back of it locks into a little hole there, which I had to widen slightly. And then I just put the glue underneath with my Tamiya extra thin brush underneath there and there. Then you've got the actual prop shaft itself. There's a little link there, like a square C-link. That links to the back of the front axle. I think there was a little hole just underneath there, which I had to widen slightly. And you just put your drop of glue there and drop of glue where it connects to the front axle. Once that was done, I then glued the exhaust in. So the exhaust goes into a little hole there with a tab. I had to widen that hole slightly and then push that in. And then that just rests in the channel and glues onto a little tab hole there, which again I had to widen slightly. Once that was in, Then I put the rear axle in. Now the rear axle, where was that now? Yes, it had 2 holes. Underneath there you got like a tab and a tab hole. So I had to widen that hole slightly, and just underneath here there's a hole and a tab, and I had to widen the hole slightly. I don't think the camera's gonna, you ain't gonna see it, but I put a drop of glue there, and I put a drop of glue there, and that sits on top of the exhaust. So now that's all dry. It's not looking too bad. So on to step 2 now.